Yay, tunage. That's right. Tunage is coming. Lots of tunage is coming. Speaking of, great segue since I've already put us way behind on time. So, if you're new here, hi, welcome. I already did the intro thing. I'm going to leave it at that. There you go. If you are brand new, say hi in the chat. There you go. Okay, so the headlines. Time is indeed a construct. Yes, it is. So this paper here that we're looking at, again, the systemic review, ADHD and music and such, bring the damn pain, is the one that is pinned at the top. And the call-outs, yes. Well, I mean, it's going to be a call-out for me, so grab a cookie, sit back, hope your coffee is ready. The cake is not a lie. That's the worst part. This is also something that affects me, right? So this is something that I have to look at it. It's a great interest to me. Angie, how's the music today? Since you are the one who seemed to be pointing out lately if it is too loud, is it good today? I want to make sure that you can actually hear me. I also want to make sure I stop banging my camera with my fucking giant cup. There we go. Whether or not you get any. That's a retro line. Sounds good to you guys? Yeah, hide the snacks. Pitter's in the house. In the meantime, let's get into it. Music's great today. All right, cool. So this headline here, or the headline rather. Eat something yummy, motherfucker! That goes for all of you. I've got a giant iced coffee. Okay, so this paper here by Zhu, Chen, and Chen, a narrative review of the psychological mechanisms and efficacy, that's right, I said the word properly, efficacy of music interventions for improving symptoms of patients with ADHD, was published in Frontiers in Psychology. I believe it was July 3rd, so like 9 days ago. So just a quick vocabulary pit stop. Which is something I'm going to try and add in more here so it doesn't feel so much like I'm giving you a fucking college lecture, right? Because there are a lot of times I'm powering through numbers and you guys are like, yeah, okay, that's great, right? Even I'm like, yeah, okay, that's great. But a narrative review, for those of you that don't know, it's not a new experiment. It is a research book report, essentially. Think of it like smart people read a big stack of existing studies to write up what the overall picture looks like. That's what a narrative review is, right? They look over a bunch of things, they kind of give it the average, and then write their paper on it. Oh shit, it did too. Who knocked that over? Who was that? I'm gonna have to go back and look, so we're gonna literally put a pin in it so I can go back and thoughts. Accumulation of thoughts? Kind of, yeah. Yeah. They read over a bunch of papers and kind of take the generalized information out of all of them. So their summary, basically, in plain English, the language that I can't speak. Look at that shit. Music intervention appears to boost sustained attention, calm down hyperactive and impulsive behavior, and ease anxiety and irritability. The proposed reason why. It fires up the brain's reward system, obviously the dopamine centers, gets the two halves of the brain talking to each other more, and shifts around the brain chemicals, dopamine and noradrenaline is essentially what that does. I love the dopamine. Well, I mean, I'm tweaking on the dopamine constantly. Given that little description, any questions yet? Before I dive into more of the meat of it. No? Good, alright. So just, I want this to be noted on the record, okay? Freaking dopamine, why does that sound familiar? It should. this is not a science claim. This is just context, okay? Bear in mind that I have built an entire hobby career thing on making music, consuming music. I'm aware that it gives my personal stake in a lot of this. Like, I will admit I have a bias when it comes to any of this research. Like, I have a personal bias, right? I will admit that. A lot of you guys know that because music is, audio production is one of the special interests I have. You're the man. Not in a dress, I'm not. So, that's kind of exactly why we're going to be extra suspicious of things, right? And not just say, yay, it's a thing, and take a victory lap on it. Okay, I want to set those honest expectations right now because, you know, with the amount that I value transparency and such, you need to know I have a bias. So there. Yeah, music can affect all kinds of mental states, neurodiversities, and other. Yes, it is true. Okay, so let's get into what ADHD brains actually do differently with music. Again, remember, this is a narrative review, and also not everybody is the same. So this is that overall, okay? You may be an exception. You may fit right into the details, right? That's what happens when you deal with different people who are on a spectrum. It's almost like everybody's different. Men can wear dresses too. They just look at Harry Styles. I'm just saying I'm not the man if I'm wearing a dress. At least, you know, I don't feel like one anyway. But that's a different topic. We're not going there. What I do in the privacy of my own home is none of your business until I turn on the webcam. Okay, the source for the whole segment is, again, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, it is right there in the description. This one here is Seville, Kinney, Hinderscheit, and Himmerlich, exploring the intersection of ADHD and music, a systematic review. And this one is from last year. Wise man once said, if you meet one person with ADHD, you met one person with ADHD. Yep, and that goes also for the autism. That goes for a lot of brain things. PMS basically cancel out the live events. Love when that happens. You might as well have taken it with orange juice. Even better, grapefruit. So basically what they found in this is that kids with ADHD were worse than other kids at guessing how long for a short amount of time had passed, is what they were doing in this study. Which is hilarious because this is something that we talked about in VC literally 2 nights ago. Right? I believe it was Angie, Nadia, Chris, and I think we're talking about this exact thing. About how, like, I'm sure you guys have seen the videos where it's like, okay, start a timer on your phone, don't look at it, and then stop it at what you think is a minute or 30 seconds or whatever, right? And it was kind of just a, you know, obviously it's not a scientific per se thing, but it's just kind of an observation as to what your brain thinks is this time frame, right? Because for a lot of us, as already pointed out, time is a construct, right? Time blindness is something that we suffer from incredibly. I had mentioned that I felt like when I did that, because I could usually get it pretty close, but I also was cheating unintentionally. And the reason for that being 20 years as a DJ, right? When I hear a song, like, if I had music in the background, I would be cheating. Because if I hear a song, I could accurately estimate its beat per minute. And then from there, I could accurately break down how long it takes for an 8-bar section, a 16-bar section, right? Because like at 142 beats a minute, an 8-bar section is 28 seconds, 28.6 seconds, or something like that. Very close to that, right? So knowing that, I kind of inadvertently cheat just because based on what I did for a career for a lot of years, right? I didn't realize that. Not until we were talking about it, and I pointed that out to myself and went, oh yeah, that's why I always fucking got it. Anywho. So yeah, kids with ADHD were obviously worse than other kids at guessing how long A short amount of time had passed. So here's the fun part. They judged musical tracks as feeling longer, specifically when the individual notes were held longer, right? So if a note was held for a longer period, I know, dirty cheater. One verse, one chorus, usually in the neighborhood just over a minute. About that, yep. Again, depending on the beats per minute, right? The faster the song, the shorter the time frame. But I know that at about 142 beats a minute, that takes about, is it 142? Or 140? It was in that range anyway. Because at the time I was playing like a lot of hard trance, and 140 was about the cycle. We're talking like 2000, 2001. Yeah, but 140 was like the line that I was running most of it at. Hard cell range, 150. At 150, then your 8 bars takes about 24 seconds-ish. Something like that. Anywho, so yeah, they said that the tracks felt longer if the notes were long, right? Even if the tracks were the exact same length, these kids felt like, because it was a longer note, then it was a longer note. It's true, music is math. So the brain's internal stopwatch is basically being tricked by the length of the note, not the actual time. So that's a wonderfully specific way that our brains are pooched. There was another study from 2017 said kids with ADHD had more trouble judging single note lengths and keeping a steady beat compared to other kids. So think of your brain having an internal metronome, right? Click, 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 click for all the notes, and keep it a steady beat compared to other kids. For a lot of the ADHD brains, in this case, the metronome runs pretty loose. Kind of all over the place. There was another one in 22. It tested teenagers with ADHD and dyslexia against typical developing peers across a bunch of music performance tests. The ADHD kids scored basically the same as everyone else on almost everything except timing. But get this, rhythm, improvisation, and musical expression, so meaning making stuff up on the spot, and actually sounding good doing it, was not impaired at all. So, get fucked, stay fucked. GFC. I'm part of the GFC. So, sorry, just looking at the timer there. To translate that, essentially, struggling to nail a metronome click is a completely different skill from being creative and expressive with music. So one is a mechanical, mathematical precision. The other is basically art. So the study proves that they are not the same, mental muscle. And one of them, and only one of them, is affected, and that being the mechanical part, right? So if you're ever told that you are not musical because you can't keep perfect time, that critique is aimed at the wrong skill in your life entirely. So there is that. So if anybody out there is a musician or a singer or what have you, that part kind of plays out directly to you, Jay. I know, very intriguing stuff. Remind me to send you the entire stack that I pulled here. Actually, I'll do that on the self-care break. I'll send you the entire list. You can look at it when you get home, or if you're bored at work, there it gives you something a little bit of fun reading. Okay. Let me see here. Another study in 23, and I'm just going to power this before we get to the self-care break. Adults with ADHD had more trouble perceiving complicated music compared to both untrained and professionally trained control groups. But short-term memory for music wasn't impaired in young adults, hinting that some of the struggles might ease up as you get older. Also, and I say this with as much love as you're going to get out of me during one of my streams, the ADHD adults in the study overestimated how well they'd actually performed compared to their real score. Does that sound familiar? Sound like something that you can relate to? So I'll actually go a little deeper why that happens in after the self-care break. But it's not just like, you know, the main character energy. There's actually a reason before it. A reason for it. That's what I get for reading chat at the same time. So for anybody who is musically inclined here, be that singing, writing, whatever, does the bad at click tracks, but being fine at improvising, does that match your own experience? Is there anyone here who can jam all day with a metronome, or does it make you want to like throw a plant across the room? Discuss. We like Jake Barr and the Beatles too. You do not care for Quinn Pratt and rip off our Quinn Pratt. I know that name. I know I've seen that name. I just can't place it right now. Anyway, since I have, you know, so inconveniently put us so far behind, time for the self-care break. So grab yourself some water, a snack, hit the bathroom, pet your dog, squeeze your kid. I don't know. You do what you do as long as, you know, it's not hurting anybody. But anyway.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
There's an app on the phone for it, Jamie.
Let's get away from here. The stars are pretty bright tonight. We can live a better life. We can have a better time. can breathe to a world that we believe in, and a place that we can leave in. We'll go to outer space, the world's not good enough. They don't treat us right, it's never good enough. I never fit in there, it's not the place for me. Outer space is where I'm supposed to be. Outer space is where I'm supposed to be. Supposed to be. Go to outer space. Go to outer space. Outer space is where I'm supposed to be. Black is the color of the space around you. Black is the color of the life you lead. Black is the color of your life you lead.
Okie dokie. Alright, where are we at here? Num num butter cookies. Nice. Nice, nice. Oh yeah, thanks for pointing that out. The book and stuff. And for those that have been contributing, thank you so much. It is very greatly appreciated. I'm not doing it today, but there is going to be a conversation very soon held about that, as well as another factor. Why? Because, well, this is the reality of my life now. So, anyway, we're not going to lean into that because that's depressing. And there's a fly in my room now. All right. So, we're going to move on to ask the question of, does listening to music actually help? Or does it just feel like it should? So, this is the messiest little section of the whole thing today. The studies genuinely disagree with each other here. I'm not going to smooth that over to make a tidier story. Real science, of course, as we pointed out last time, is allowed to be chaotic. Real science, in my opinion, is expected to be chaotic. I don't want to read a whole bunch of reviews that all say the exact same thing unless they could fucking prove it, right? I want you know, a little bit of discrepancy between each of them, so that way I know that they're actually doing the work. So this one's reaching all the way back. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It does help as long as I'm doing other things. Oh, okay. So for you personally, yeah. Well, we'll get to that, Dave. Basically, right now we're going to look at these studies here. Okay. There's one that goes all the way back to 1996, and it was boys with ADHD. Hang on. Shocker. I know. Put away your surprise faces. They did a study in the 90s on boys with ADHD. I'm surprised they didn't say white boys with ADHD. Anyway, they did better on, yeah, 96. I know, right? In 90s, that's right. 96 girls didn't. They got anxiety and depression is what they got. All right. So, all things being true, we have established that math equals music, right? Music is mathematical. We know this to be true, right? So, with that said, boys with ADHD did better on math problems while music was playing compared to silence or someone talking. Typically developing neurotypical, as before the word was a thing, neurotypical boys performed the same no matter what. So this backs up what is called optimal stimulation theory, which is it's way less complicated than it sounds. Think of an ADHD brain and a car engine idling too low, right? It needs a little extra gas to actually run. True? You figure? I thought that was a cute little analogy for me to pop in there. But if you think of it that way, right? If you're just sitting there, your brain is idling, right? And it's just kind of like, it's either there or it's like all the fuck over the place. But if you introduce that element to help it maintain a little better focus, i.e. music, right? It'll either, if it's idling too low, then it'll get the boost that it needs. If it's running all over the place, then it might help bring it down to a more reasonable level. There's another paper in 2007 that immediately complicates that whole tidy story, though. Music improved math accuracy in this study in both the ADHD kids and the neurotypical kids. And it did it equally. So if it helps everybody the same amount, that's not obviously ADHD superpowers or anything like that. That might just be music helps most humans survive boring math homework. Which, fair, right? So another one of these is from 2020. It said calm music, lyrics or no lyrics, improved reading comprehension in ADHD preteens, while there was another control group that actually got worse. Rhythmic, more energetic music didn't work nearly as well as calm music specifically. They also, in this study, they tracked the heart rate variability. So, taking into account any kind of like a real physical stressor from the music, if they felt that, that kind of music that just kind of like puts you on edge, something in the song, if it's like a flat key or whatever, or something goes off key, that's, God, the hairs, what's left of the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But they found music genuinely calmed the nervous system down. So like not just, the vibe of it, just an actual measurable body response in that study. Calm music, like classical, which puts me to sleep. I mean, Jay loves classical music. Well, funny, since you bring that up, back in, and I'm going to compare then to now, and this is for me specifically, okay? Hi, Story, how's it going? Happy Sunday. For me specifically, best example I can think of is when I was writing my very first book back in 2018, right? When I was actually trying for my first novel, which by the way is still not finished, for the record. What I would do is, and I'm sure you've mentioned this before. I'm sure you've heard me mention this before. Have you ever heard of a page called Pandora Journey? Basically, it is a lot of epic orchestral, like the kind of stuff that you would hear in the background of Skyrim and stuff like that, like very big swelling, I don't know, orchestral music. Anyway, I would sit there and listen to that stuff while I was doing writing. The stuff I would listen to cannot have lyrics, because if it does have lyrics, then I get distracted by the lyrics and I lock onto those instead of writing my own words. I'm listening to somebody else's, and then those ones sneak into what I'm trying to write, right? Nowadays, I find that it has to be, well, thanks to the advent of things like Suno, I can just create my own playlist, kind of thing, right? So it can vary. It can vary quite wildly, but it can't be anything too chill. Like Naughty was saying about like classical music, I can't go there because that's just like brain disengaged. You know, I'm just like bored to fucking tears. You know, it's got to be something that. The thing about that, like that orchestral type of stuff, is with the, you know, with the great big swell of the build up on it and stuff like that. You know, it can, to me, it kind of feels like it kind of brings you up a little bit. What do we got here? Stressed and packing to go see my family. Fair enough. My personal experience lies in the face of all these theories. Yes, which we were kind of talking about the other day. And it's a shame you're at work, because otherwise I would totally drag you into BC over it. Makes your brain itchy. So yeah, right now, what am I listening to right now when it comes to it? I'm listening to like a lot of instrumental, down-tempo cyberpunk stuff is what I'm listening to now when I'm doing my writing. Not only that, but it completely fits the atmosphere of the story that I'm writing. So that helps too. Right? If you can find something that matches the aesthetic of what you got going on, then perfect. Yeah. But again, it can't have lyrics. Aimed at types. Yeah, more or less. More or less. A little bit. I want to say grittier, but that's not right. Very similar to Aim to Head. Instrumental, depending on the beats, is good. Yeah, it's got to be instrumental. Because again, like I said, otherwise my brain locks onto the words and then I'm not accomplishing anything. So, all right. There's, let me see, another study from 22. This one's a pretty big sample size. Music had zero effect on easy reading tasks in this study, but made harder reading tasks worse for kids with ADHD. So translation there is, music might help you push through some of the boring shit like folding laundry, but it can straight up sabotage you on something genuinely demanding, like reading a dense textbook chapter, something like that. So in this study, they found same tool had the opposite result, depending entirely on the difficulty of the job. The mellower stuff agitation. Yes. Yeah. Jay and I talked about this in VC the other night, which I thought was like super interesting, I'm not gonna lie. I also found it completely relatable. Right? So do you mind if I share what I remember, Jay, from what you were telling me? Because at the time is when he was asking me about, because I mentioned on Friday that I was going to be talking about this kind of thing, and he asked me, you know, can I kind of get a cliff notes, essentially. Okay, cool. Music helped me in school. I'm very songs on loop. When I was doing a lot of design stuff when I was in college, so like putting together web pages or doing coding or stuff like that, I was actually in a very big, Disturbed kick at the time. So like I was listening to like albums upon albums of just Disturbed and stuff like that while I'm putting together my animations and or graphic design or whatever it was. So yeah. Yeah, Jay, I'm down for that for sure. But anyway, the short version of what he told me, basically what he said there in chat, is that how the mellower stuff agitates him to the point of anger, whereas heavier stuff he can deal with, but when it gets long and repetitive, I'm out. Yeah, so what we were talking about is how, like, say even if you're walking in a place like the mall, right, and you know the mall has always got a plethora of music going on. Typically, they've got some kind of like a radio, a satellite radio or some shit, and in a lot of cases, just to appease the general public, most places will be playing like soft rock, right? That super like non-threatening, you know. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure what you think of when I say the word soft rock I'm sure there's a tune that comes to mind, right? So basically what he was saying is hearing that step, yeah, one step up from music, yeah. So basically what he was saying is stuff like that, like, seriously agitates him. However, yeah, easy listening, yeah, elevator music kind of thing. Adult contemporary, there's another good word for it. Yep, that kind of stuff. Has their own thing that means there's sensory issues and can make us angry from overload. Yep. Yep. So in his case, right, hearing that kind of stuff agitates his system. Whereas listening to something like, I don't know, as a shit example, what I've got in the background, right, is a little more soothing to him than that kind of, like, soothing to his nervous system than listening to something like, I don't know, Phil Collins or what have you. Adult contemporary, yeah. Thanks, Chris. That was actually a really good example right there. Okay, so there is another where they took two papers and put them against each other. One from 1981, yes, going that fucking far back, almost 50 years back. God, that hurt to actually get out of my mouth. Ugh. 1981 is 45 years ago. There's the big call out for a lot of us. Anyway, so it took this paper from 1981 versus another one from 1986. Okay, so to buckle up, because this is like peak science in the 80s. Ready? One study found music increased physical restlessness in hyperactive boys. 5 years later, the 1986 one found that instrumental rock decreased it in a very similar group, ADHD boys. Both studies are very small. Both happened before modern ADHD diagnostic criteria even existed. Okay, so we're talking like, back then, we're talking like DSM version 2. Back then. But yeah, nobody has disproven, not disproven, but nobody has directly challenged this notion, right? So that's why it's still kind of a thing that is grabbed as a source, which sucks because sometimes science just leaves you two shitty papers duking it out in a fucking hallway or something, and doesn't come back to it. I'll challenge it, yeah. Just no actual ADHD. Yeah. Well, DSM-2, what did they call it back then? I can't even remember off the top of my head what they called it. Oh, well. The miracle of a professional demon uttered the term, yeah. Yeah, it was ADD back then, right? But there was kind of a hyperactive spinoff on that too, was there not? I don't remember. The Books of Crazy People, yes. All right, so what else did I find? There was another paper from 2018, a small preliminary study. Both music and white noise improved the balance performance in kids with ADHD, so it might not even be specifically about music. It could just be structured background sounds of basically any kind, right? Hang on, I want to check what it was. Okay, there we go. So in this case here, and I'm going to ask you on your experience here, do you find that, like, how many people here actually listen to, it's just called a hyperactive disorder? You might be right. Hang on, we're going to find out, because that's going to fucking drive me nuts. What was ADHD referred to in the, if I could spell that'd be great, in the DSM-2. No, right, that was it. Hyperkinetic reaction of childhood. That's what it was. I knew it was like the hyper something. Hyperkinetic. Yeah, hyperkinetic reaction of childhood. That's what it was. Keep getting distracted. Well, fucking shocker. It's almost like you have that certain thing. I know, talk about a mouthful indeed. Which, that's what she said. Title of your sex tape. AKA, they were bad kids, that's right. Hyperkinetic equals too much movement, yeah. But, where are we here? Okay, 2018, yeah. Where was I? Okay, so yeah, both music and white noise improve balance performance in kids with ADHD. Yeah, so it might just be about structured background sound of basically any kind that helps with a particular task. The question I was going to ask is, how many of you listen to things like white noise, brown noise, pink noise, all of that staticky stuff? Besides just for a sleep aid. Actually, if you do use it for a sleep aid, let me know. Does anybody here use things like white noise, brown noise, all of that stuff? Sometimes. See, when I am doing a very, very serious, like, deep level mastering of a song, okay, then I will use, I've got a recording of, it's like a brown noise that I will record against it, right? Just to kind of like get levels and what's the word I'm looking for here? Basically, it's just kind of like to set my levels against. I'm usually specifically to go to sleep. So do I. No Trail Dead. I'm going to go with no. Tried it for sleep and for tasks. I usually turn on how it's made. Hey, that's cool. Rain sounds. Yeah, there you go. That's as close as you'll get to white noise. Yeah, white noise. I find a lot of stuff like that, for the most part, very irritating to me. I can't sit and listen to it for very long. Now, admittedly, as a music producer, there are a lot of cases where I do need to introduce white noise, right? You want to put like a white noise on the transient of like a kick drum or a snare drum, because it helps enhance that even more. It brings it out and really makes it pop. You wouldn't normally think this, but that's one of the secrets of the industry. There you go. Now you know. Every night I use white noise or music for sleep. Music will rotate, but have you tried out the music list that I put out, Jamie? To show her music. Well, and you guys, I'm sure recall me saying that when I was 22, 23, and still to this day, sometimes I will put on comedians, but it has to be comedy shows that I already know and have heard 1,000 times. So that way I'm not I'm not mentally engaging it. You have a sleep music? Yeah, it's on YouTube. What is it called? I'm trying to remember what the current one I have is called. It's over an hour. Content. It's called Idle State. And I put the tracks out individually, as well as an hour and 14 minutes or whatever, long continuous one. So yeah, that's on my YouTube. And click. There we go. Get back to that. My go-to is Spotify for sleeping, and that's fair. Are you saying listen to brown noise to reset your audio palette, kind of, or? No, I am saying that I set some of my equalizer levels against it. Now, I haven't done it for a while. I will be doing it again for the Revenge album. Actually, the last time I did it was the last Revenge album. So, it's. I'll show you one time when we're in a VC. I'll show you how I do that to rebalance. Yeah. But it's something that I could set levels against, right? Anyway, as I get way sidetracked, because, off topic is the topic. So there's another one from 2019. There were only this is the only adult study in the entire systemic review. So this one had 40 adults with ADHD, 44 without, obviously split into two groups. Group 1 listened to 10 minutes of Mozart, basically. Group 2 sat in a silent room for 10 minutes. Just saying that hurts my feelings. The researchers then measured everybody's mood. Take a guess which group felt sad afterwards. Yeah, out of the two. A group of neurotypicals sitting in silence for 10 minutes. A group of ADHDers listening to Mozart for 10 minutes. Which group came out sad? Sadder. Jared says silent room. Nadia says silent room. I have a list of upbeat songs. The normies. You think Story thinks the ADHDers came out sadder. Chris thinks the normies came out sadder. Jay says the Mozart group came out sadder. Hugh says ADHDers. The correct answer, and by the way, thank you all for your contributions. The correct answer was indeed the neurotypicals. Would you believe? It's going to vote. No, it was the neurotypicals that had to sit in silence for 10 minutes with nothing to do. It was groundbreaking work, truly. But in fairness to the researchers, ADHD, yeah, although for ADHDers in silence, that would be absolutely worse. So much worse. And I'll give you an example of that in a second here. Actually, I'll give you a contradictory example here in a second. Okay, so like I was saying, in fairness to the researchers, the actual point was showing that the music specifically improved mood in a way that silence just didn't. And it worked with the ADHD group and the control group when they were listening to music. So it's a small single session pilot study. But it was the closest thing we got to adult ADHD data specifically, right? Because a lot of these studies are all done for kids, because of course they are. But it carries a lot of weight for just one study. So Jay, was it Jay? I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, I think it was Jay. The difference, there's a big difference between my wife and I when we drive. She prefers to drive in complete silence. Now, we all know my wife is ADHD as fuck, right? That's her, she actually got the AF diagnosis, right? But she prefers to listen to nothing while she drives. Whereas I have to have some kind of thing. I'm generally, yeah, moving or not, I'm jumping out of the car. Right? So if she is driving, I'm fucking with the radio. It's gotta come off. All right, come on. There's my 4 o'clock med alarm. And my meds are out on the kitchen table. If I was in silence, I would probably fall asleep before I get sad. She's also the kind of person, like, she would pick me up from the after hours clubs if I was playing at an after hours. From like 4 to, if I had a slot from 4 to 5 a.m. kind of thing. She would show up at the after hours club and fall asleep on the couch behind the DJ booth. I shit you not. In a room where it's gotta be about like 80, 90 decibels somewhere in there. And she's having a fucking nap on the couch. But she prefers to drive in total silence. Whereas I have to listen to something. Wife needs to listen to her music in all cars at all times. Fuck my presets. I mean, I want to say fair enough, but that's not fair at all. That's not cool, man. That's not cool. Listen to road. No, road. Oh God, road sounds are the absolute worst. The absolute worst. and it might just be what we use for the asphalt up here, but like just listening to the sound of the car on the road, no, it grates on my nervous system like nothing else. Especially when you get a section where it's like they just did repair on this section, and when I drove bus, no music allowed ever. Yeah, that would. I could see that. I understand that because you have to be paying attention to like everybody on there and one. Yeah, I've been on working radio for a while, so I can speak on both sides. There are times I've done a long. Let's try that sentence again. There are times, like when I have just done work a long DoorDash shift, silence can be comforting. If I could be even better. There are very few times in my career where, after I was done a gig, sometimes because there was so much and so loud that I would drive home in silence. It happened. It was rare, but I do specifically remember it happening. But basically, the honest lesson from this one narrative review, music is not a universal cheat code, essentially, right? It depends on how hard the task is. It depends on what kind of music it is. And honestly, all things being equal, and all of us being on a spectrum, it depends on just who you are. I know it's not exactly a satisfying takeaway, or music fixes everything, but it's the true one. Silence is the loudest thing on the planet. Yes, it is. I will absolutely agree with that. Now, at that time, we're talking like 20 years ago. It's got to be 20 years ago, kind of thing, where there were a few gigs that I just came home in silence because there was like so much. But yes, silence is absolutely the loudest thing on the planet because somebody else makes sure of it. So, question to you. Has music ever actively backfired on you or made a task harder instead of easier? And if so, what were you trying to do? Is it louder than a fart during sex? Yes. Tinnitus makes silence painful. No such a... I agree. As somebody who has got a tinnitus in my right ear, yes. I tried to explain to a friend, too, that how my tinnitus, if I was actually sitting in silence, and how it gets seemingly louder, right? How that hurts. And she's like, tinnitus doesn't cause pain. Like, not in and of itself. Music while driving in the rain makes it more difficult. Depends on how hard the rain is, yeah. Of course, you know, when you show up at your destination, you have to turn the music down if you're trying to find a place, right? That, I think that's a universal truth, or it might be anyway. Yes, but I can't remember specifics. Well, that sums up all of us. Overstimulating. I was working on my Warhammer models and the song came on and it got lost in my head. That'll happen. There are times I actually just really music can actually amplify things. Yes, absolutely. Especially if you're playing something that, you know, like kind of like in the case of Jay, right, where one kind of music you know that it's going to aggravate you versus something else. If you're where are we here? Yeah, if you're dysregulated, then, you know, listening to something that is going to amp that up. ADHD versus ADHD, or I'm just freak. We're going to go with freak. Maybe lose focus, depends on the music, my current state of mind. Even silent, driving home, more likely to start dissociating while I'm driving. Exactly, I have that same problem. Or those times where, you know, if I'm driving from here to Edmonton, and if I have to drive in something resembling silence, where you just kind of like, oh fuck, I'm almost there. How did that happen? Right? Turns on the radio to be able to see better. Yep. Went on a daydream. Fair enough. Yeah, I already told you my example, right? If I'm trying to write a story and I'm listening to music that has vocals in it, then yeah, that will throw me off. I don't have any experience, but yeah, I can totally see that. Oh yeah, the dissociating while driving. No, I prefer to keep the mind active while listening to something. If it's lyrical, because it doesn't have to be, but if it's lyrical, then even better, right? Because then I've got something to keep the mind engaged on it. So, the proposed mechanism, how might this actually work? Well, let's find out. Okay, so this one is, the source is Rhythms of Relief, Perspectives on Neurocognitive Mechanisms of Music Interventions in ADHD, which was published in Frontiers in Psychology in 25. This is a theory paper, by the way. Very important to point that out. It is not new data. It's a smart researcher's best attempt to explain why any of the stuff we just covered in the last segment might actually be happening in the brain. So again, this is a theory paper. This is not hard science. There's the disclaimer. But it is a paper that was put out. Play the music as loud as the people in the car. And words don't matter. Not necessarily. The teleporting bug. Yeah, that's exactly it. All right. So, they laid out 7 proposed mechanisms. 7 is a lot. So we're going to group these things, and I'm going to group these things together so that when I give you a test tomorrow, you'll remember it. And how many of you just shit a brick when I said I'm giving you a test? Yeah, test. Fuck that. There we go. Oh, hang on. What am I missing? I'm missing 2 windows. There we go. Okay. I test well. Oh, they're annoying me, I don't remember. It's because you cheat, Nadia. Why should I be worried about failing this one? I know, me too, right? Anyway, I kid, I joke, I kid. 20K? Nice. Okay, so we're going to group these together. One is the reward and the dopamine angle. And that is, again, according to this theory paper, that music lights up the nucleus accumbens, I think it is, which is the same reward center, basically, that is involved in, like, motivation and pleasure kind of thing. So it kind of lights that up. The same thing is like when you get a video game win, or like a notification buzz or something like that. If that's something that you're worried about, it lights up that same idea. Okay. I did very bad bullet points on this one. Okay, so our brains are basically understood to have a specific wiring, or rather to have specific wiring differences, is what I meant, in the reward pathway. So if that's accurate, music might be topping up a tank that is chronically running on empty, something that I had mentioned before about the idling, right? It's not giving you something extra, it's just giving you what the brain, what neurotypical brains get for free, essentially. We'll go power hungry. Does that, Jay, does that take you back to a time when you were throwing swords at Chris? Fucking, I don't want it. You can have it. Green. All right, so on top of the reward and dopamine angle, there's also the timing and entertainment angle. So if you remember, we already mentioned about how some brains, with the internal metronome, right? How it, having a hard time sticking to, if you were trying to, maybe, yeah, you know what I'm saying. See, there I go, fixing it till it's broke. God damn it. Anyway, So if you had this internal metronome, basically, sorry, I'm trying to keep myself in the middle here. Basically, a strong, steady external beat might act like a scaffolding that your brain can lean on, instead of having to generate perfect timing completely from scratch all on its own. So like reading sheet music versus having someone tap the beat on your shoulder the whole time. That's a very oddly specific reference. I realized that, but that was kind of like the only one that I could think of at the time. So again, what I'm saying for that timing and entertainment kind of angle, because if we were asked in our mind to keep time, we tend to, it tends to get a little loosey-goosey, right? As opposed to if you had somebody else that was there backing you up. So not just music helping, friends help too. Sume, I got 15 tabs open manually and 2 of them are playing music. Well, that sounds like me most of the time. So for the other angle for the music, they called it the arousal regulation angle, essentially. So this is that optimal stimulation theory that we were talking about earlier, right? Car engine in your brain idling too low. Music is like a tunable outside stimulation that kind of gives that idling a little nudge. I was called up by my cousin because I couldn't keep time with the crowd clapping during a baseball game. That's rough. What else do we have? What do you mean, wow? I know, that's the game you're playing. My brain tells me. Leave your sanity at the door. Is that what you're talking about? Sorry, I had to see what Sume was talking about. My mind is too wobbly to keep music time. Fair enough. Example, today's church, we had hymns throughout it, and it went faster in my brain than normal. Shoulder taps and other types of self-tapping or soothing. Certain types of music could serve the same way, I suppose. Yeah, and again, too, remember, this is not for everybody, because everybody being different, right? I'm off base when I run them. There you go. Some of that can be like trained or practiced too, right? So taking that into consideration. But another angle that they've looked at for music with our wonderful brains is the executive function and daydreaming network angle. So if you can, picture your brain has a background channel that is basically always playing. Does that sound familiar? Anybody? Does anybody feel like their brain has an extra channel just playing music on in the background? Anybody? I know, nobody does. That's oddly specific, and I apologize for bringing that up. I'm sorry, I know you can't relate to it. Sorry, was that a little harsh? I didn't mean for it to be. Nope, Nadia doesn't get it. Regularly, this is your brain on drug, yep. Okay, so in this case, in a lot of our lovely fucking ADHD mess brains, that channel runs a little bit too loud, competing with the OK Focus Now channel that you're supposed to be listening to, right? So if you are listening to actual music that's not just going on in your head, that appears to turn down that background daydreaming channel, and it kind of gives that focus channel a bit more of a boost, give it a better shot. Know what I mean? And I see that we've got the 5-minute warning. Yeah, I got a couple of things here. Okay, so another one is the effective management and social bonding is how music affects. Hi, Lourdes. So this one's more straightforward, basically. These are about music supporting emotional processing, Jamie, and in group therapy type settings, human connection type of stuff. Okay, these are proposed as more indirect routes, working through mood and relationship rather than punching straight at like your attention circuitry. I'll give you a personal example of mine. My therapist tends to put on the background music when I show up. when we have our sessions. There's usually some kind of like soothing shit going on in the background. I don't mind that. It actually kind of helps me focus more on her words. Do you find the same thing? Times the song stuck in my head. I hate that. But anyway, so out of all of that, my aunt used to do a bunch of paper, and that's all I know about. That's cool, actually. That's really cool. But here's an important honesty check that comes straight from the paper authors. Okay, these mechanisms are pieced together partly from ADHD specific research and partly borrowed from studies on completely different groups, right? Autism, dementia, traumatic brain injury, and they're just kind of like stitched across. So it's a completely reasonable way to build this early theory, right? Because again, this is just a theory paper, not hard science. It's not a locked-in thing, right? They don't get a plaque on the wall for it. So, which of these actually feels true for you when it comes to music? The reward and motivation angle, or the timing and rhythm? Okay, I'll just quickly go over them real quick. Hi, English is my first language. Can you tell? So the first angle was reward and dopamine. The second was timing and entertainment. The third was like arousal regulation. Giggity. Executive function and daydreaming. Affective management and social bonding. The other channels, so that would be the effective management. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious how, if you could feel like, apparently I need a drink of vodka. Entertainment and regulation. Cool. No, I'm just curious. Because also, it's time for a self-care break. Time to grab yourself a water or a snack or some shit. You know what to do. You know how that all works. And we were gonna, I'm gonna try and find some new lips, is what I'm gonna do, because I keep tripping over these ones. Whatever.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Thank you. I will do that.
Were you recently assaulted by a watercraft in a freak staircase accident, and now you can't even lie in bed without groaning in constant agony? Or maybe you're just having trouble affording that vital medication that allows you to function at a basic level in society. Maybe it's time to look into the FML Insurance Protection Plan from ADHD Incorporated. Okay, so maybe protection isn't exactly the right word, since we're not actually protecting you from anything, and we're really only covering a fraction of the costs, compared to the ridiculous amount of money that you're obligated to pay us for your peace of mind. But hey, capitalism, am I right? Are we better than your current insurance provider? Maybe, probably not. But who even knows anymore? So why not roll the dice and find out now with FML Insurance from ADHD Incorporated. Coverage does not include spilling hot coffee on yourself, getting scratched by a rabid trash panda, prescription costs, doctor's notes, accidental death, accidental accidents, any accident that occurs outside of your house, or any accident that occurs inside of your house. No takesy-backsies. Sucks to be you. Get your peace of mind today with FML Insurance from ADHD Incorporated. Pretending to help you since 1976.
You rely on coffee, but does your coffee rely on you? At ADHD Incorporated, we've rewritten the bean, introducing Coffee.exe, the first beverage that updates itself nightly and occasionally reboots your motivation.
User detected. Launching productivity protocol.
What? Not again. Please don't.
With Coffee.exe, every sip floods your neurons with quantum caffeine, a compound so strong it briefly collapses time, like a black hole of rich, full-bodied flavor.
He's been typing for 36 hours. I don't think he has stopped to eat in days.
Ugh, no wonder it smells like piss and shame in here.
Somebody help me!
Mission complete.
That was your mission?
It's going to take a week to air out that smell.
Make it stop! I can smell words!
Coffee.exe from ADHD Incorporated for when consciousness is optional and sleep is only a suggestion.
I'm calling HR. This shit can't be legal.
Welcome to another episode of Nobody Asked, the segment where we give you information that nobody asked for.
Prostitution is the oldest profession, and rice is the oldest food we still eat today. The more you know.
This has been Nobody Asked.
Did you walk onto a construction site wearing only a thong and got ran over by a bobcat?
Did you attend the local petting zoo and break your tailbone trying to ride the moose?
Hey, fuck you! Did you try to touch Katie's food?
I'm JP Schuster.
And I'm CB Mooster. And we're here to fight for you. Automotive accidents.
Medical malpractice.
Workplace injury.
You live in Arkansas.
Call Schuster and Mooster at 1-800-LOBSTER.
Nothing fishy going on here.
I thought we left the crabs at home. Schuster and Mooster.
Attorneys at law.
My nipples are hard.
I can't feel my toes.
By hiring Schuster & Mooster LLC, you acknowledge that no one should act or refrain from acting based solely upon the legal advice provided by Schuster & Mooster LLC, without first seeking much better qualified legal and/or professional advice.
Thank you for calling the ADHD hotline, sponsored by Squirrel Co., a subsidiary of ADHD Incorporated. If you're currently having a meltdown and need to scream into the void, press 0 now. Otherwise, please choose from the following options. To have someone activate your hyperfocus to start a task because your executive dysfunction has paralyzed you, please press 1. If you need reassurance because imposter syndrome is acting up and telling you you're trash and not worthy of success, love, or praise, please press 2. To gush about your latest hobby or hyperfocus because the people around you are already sick of hearing about it and you just need to show someone your hard work, please press 3. If you can't find the item you literally just had in your hand and need someone to walk you through the last hour so you can find it again, please press 4. If you can't remember why you called us, but know it was important, please press 5. If you're suffering from decision paralysis and need someone to talk you through figuring out what you want to do, please press 6. If you're shopping and need someone to talk you out of buying the 4,782,746 things in your cart because buying things gives you dopamine, but you just can't afford it, please press 7. To set reminder alarms to remind you to drink your water, eat something yummy, take your meds and unclench your jaw, please press 8. If you are having a meltdown and need to scream into the void, please press 0. If you need to hear these options again, because you have ADHD and have already forgotten which option you needed, please press 9.
I just love that one so much. 8, 9. That's 3 for me. Why? Because I always have a fuck ton of things going on. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to settle into my little comfortable spot here, and I'm just going to move my camera a little bit. Because my gigantic ass cup keeps hitting it and knocking the position off. And I'm trying to stay in the middle for YouTube on shorts. Because, sorry about that. By the way, if you guys are watching on Facebook or YouTube, hey, push some buttons. Smash some things for me, Amelia. That'd be great. And if you're not following or subscribed, the fuck? What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? we talk facts over here. Goofy as shit, but we talk facts over here. Yes, I am absolutely speechless. Yeah, totally shocked that music and stuff like that would help you out, like so many others. So there's that, right? Like if I was sitting here and if I did not have the background music, right, in my ears, which is louder than what you guys are hearing it on my end, right? Obviously, but if I didn't have that, this would be a hard time. I'll tell you that. I'm gonna do in my life whatever I'm told. Amen to that. Hey, fucking men to that. Anywho, all right. Shall we get back to some actual real trials? Let's do that. Music therapy as an actual treatment. Okay, this section directly compares music therapy. It compares music therapy results to standard ADHD care. It does mention specific meds by name. So bear in mind that this is a thing that is taken into account in this study here. Let's put people on trial. Let's do that. I don't want to break the computer. Lies. I know that you do. Okay, so this is a real randomized trial that took place in South Korea back in 2023. 36 kids and teens with ADHD and depression. Take note of that. They were split evenly, 18 and 18. Okay. The music therapy group got 50-minute sessions twice a week for 3 whole months. It was mixing hands-on improvising with just listening. Okay. So, well, what's a plain English version of this? Okay, serotonin, obviously one of the brain's feeling good, feeling okay kind of chemicals. Their serotonin went up slightly. Cortisol, your main stress hormone, was the one that spikes before a deadline, right? If you really know, if you want to know, that kind of thing.
Take your meds! Eat something yummy, motherfucker!
Might set fire to things. Yes. Anyway, so cortisol, it went down significantly, and their scores on the standardized depression and daily tests, they dropped too. By the way, get a cookie. Why? Because Dan said get cookies. Hi, Dan. How was your destiny today? Where am I here? Okay, so the hard science part of this is the fact that this is actual blood work. They checked the blood work to make sure, or to get the accurate measurements, as it were. It's a meatball. So it was not just a mood survey. They actually checked the blood work and found, again, that cortisol went down. Their serotonin went up significantly. Cortisol went down significantly. Yeah. So that's what they found in this South Korean study on music. Oh, that took a second. Like, why are you? Yeah, never mind. All right, so another study from 2006 rather. Another real randomized trial. Teenage boys with ADHD. Again, how fucking shocked are we? They were split into a waitlist group and 2 different active music therapy formats. The music therapy group showed less impulsivity. It was measured with something called the Stroop test. Okay, yeah, right. So I kind of explained that. Okay, so the Stroop test that they put them through. Imagine the word red printed in blue ink, right? Have you ever seen those? and your job is to say the color of the, like, what color the actual image is, right? So in that case, the word red in blue ink, you would say blue, right? Have you ever seen those? Or seen anybody do them online or something? But, yeah, you're not supposed to read the word. You're supposed to, I hate those tests. They tend, they can be hard. They can be easy. I've seen some really difficult ones. So, your brain desperately wants to read the word, right? Let me see here. Yeah, your brain wants to read the word, but you're fighting the urge to say blue instead of, it's like self-control, an issue with self-control. The music therapy got measured, like all the kids. So, say the color you see, well, shade gray. There you go. Yeah, that test would not be fun for you, Dan. It'd be funny, but it wouldn't necessarily be fun, I guess. But yeah, the kids in the music therapy got measurably better at doing that while they were listening to the music. So yeah, another randomized one. Aggressive teenage boys, almost all of them with ADHD. No statistical significant change in how the kids rated their own aggression, but their parents reported a real improvement in disruptive and antisocial behavior at home. So take that one into consideration, all the parents out there with unruly kids. Their teachers at school did not see the same shift. I'm not going to cherry pick the result that I like better out of this one, but it's an honest mixed finding in that study. Sue's the savage beast. At home, not in school, apparently. What else did we find? 2023, teens with ADHD were given a combo program, cognitive behavioral therapy, plus music-based emotional regulation skills. They picked up more healthy coping moves, like reframing a bad situation. They dropped the unhealthy ones, like bottling everything up. Sorry, I'm just going to sit here in this awkward silence for a second while I look at you. You know who. Anyway. And by the way, if you feel called out and if you think I was looking at you, the answer is yes. Another big randomized trial from 2022. Kids with ADHD were given music therapy plus CBT, and it showed real gains in attention and behavior. Kids without ADHD in the exact same study did not show the same improvement. So there's a meaningful clue for you right there. It isn't just music is a nice treat for your ADHD, or for every kid, because the ADHD kids did show a significant improvement. I wrote a song about bottling shit up. Yeah, and it's I don't know where that's from, what's going to happen there, but that may or may not be coming soon to a streaming platform near you. Nadia, I think he's talking to you. I mean, fair enough. All right. In 2024, there was a music and movement program that improved quality of life and reaction time with kids, in kids with ADHD, and brainwave readings and their EEG. They showed patterns generally linked to calmer, more organized, more focused brain states while listening to music. Think of it like the difference between, like, hi Gothic. Think of it like the difference of listening to a clear radio station versus when it goes a little bit off, where it's like half static, half radio. Heading to the store quickly. Well, I mean, all right then. That's fine, because I have to open another window for another thing with the thing. Sorry, I'm just checking. Sorry. Don't mind me. Okay. Grab me a slushie. The young ones don't know what a radio station is. I mean, most cars still have it. You're not wrong. Don't get me, you're not wrong. My go-to thing in majority is Ren Fair music playlist or something. Well, I mean, coming from you, there are only so many languages I could say no shit in. Let me see. Does that shock me? Yeah, it shocks me just as much as when Chaos said, so I finished another book today. All of the shock. So much surprise. Maybe not so much. Books can be finished? Apparently, yes. According to Chaos, yes. According to Chaos's lengthy list from last year, going yes. Rent Fair lovers find Rent Fair music the easiest to log on to. Yes. Okay. I love books. Audiobooks are good. Audiobooks are the best because I cannot sit and read a book because otherwise I'm going to forget what happened the page before. SEA classes. Nice. Noise. All right. So all of that we just went through regarding the words and stuff, the actual real trials that they put the kids through. No pressure, of course, to anybody. But if anybody's actually done real music therapy, like real, not just, sitting casually with your headphones listening. I mean, like real, genuine music therapy. Has anybody done it? Because I have not. And that was something I was always kind of curious about. So I'm curious if anybody has, and what their experience is in the way that, did you find it was more positive? Did you find it didn't help at all? Did you find it was more negative? I'm not trying to finger you. Is the title of my sex tape. Anyway. Sat down and don't do music helps the mental space I was in, which is fair. There are plenty of cases where, or plenty of times where I find that's the case. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. I haven't but found that music helps me lock onto things, which pretty much is like the universal thing that we are finding in all of these studies and papers that we're looking at. I need to read your story. I've been reading. Suppose it's funny you should read it. No, what I do is I put it through a TTS. All right. Well, I would like to take a moment here. Outro music there. No, apparently it's a thing. Apparently it is a thing. All right, well, since we covered those, before we get into the honest caveats when it comes to this, and why this isn't settled silence, which we are going to do in just a moment, I would like to, and we're going to reintroduce something that I did on Friday, We're going to take a couple of minutes. Are you ready?
And now it's time for Moose News!
Seems legit.
All right. Brand new segment that I introduced as a bit of a palate cleanser. We're going to take a couple of moments here and we're just going to look over some headlines. Some recent headlines that are kind of fucking weird and stupid and things that make me laugh. And that's why I wanted to introduce it. So we call this segment Moose News, obviously, because that's what I already said. So again, for those not paying attention, which in this crowd never happens.
And now it's time for Moose News!
Seems legit.
It does seem legit. Thanks, Moose. All right. Nature's own comedian. Scientists have just confirmed a newly discovered happy face spider. Have you heard about this? They found this in the Himalayas. It has the same grinning, smile-shaped markings as Hawaii's famous happy face spider, except that it evolved to look completely evolved to look completely independently on the other side of the planet. Two unrelated spiders arrived at the same dumb joke by accident, basically. All right, cool. The fucking what? I am also learning that music helps when I am training with sword. Yeah, I have no doubt. Seems a good way to... Yeah, I was just thinking that. Seems like a very good way to gain coordination and speed, yeah. Okay. And now we know. That's right. Now you know. How do you feel about that? How do I feel about that?
And knowing is half the battle.
I call this corporate chaos delivered by mail. A squirrel erupted out of a package delivered to a Meta office in Thailand and ran wild through the building. No further details needed on that one, I tell you. That's the whole story, and it's perfect, in my opinion. Can you just imagine being the person that received that package? There you are in Thailand. Open the package and a fucking squirrel jumps out and runs rampant through the whole building. Yeah. I don't need to say anymore. I just thought that one was great. The record that nobody asked for. A Chicago man attempted a Guinness World Record by walking nearly 33 feet with a balloon held between his knees. We don't know if he succeeded. We do know that he tried. But that was a headline. That a Chicago man attempted a Guinness World Record. 33 feet. Yeah, why? I don't know. I have no idea. Because people are fucking strange. Weak. Ask a woman. How about this? An alligator went missing in Indiana and was on the loose for an entire month before wildlife authorities finally tracked it down and returned it safely to its owner. Somewhere in Indiana. Yeah. A month of people just quietly not mentioning the alligator situation. No, it doesn't seem, on paper, it doesn't seem difficult, but I mean, like, this is, first off, this is a Guinness World Record. Why? Yeah, I know, Chris, that's why I wrote this one down, because you would think that's a Florida man story right there. Okay, how about this? Last one. I call this the World Cup's real MVP. Merlin, a duck who is basically a full-time local celebrity on the streets of Mexico City, was dressed in the Mexico national team jersey and became the unofficial World Cup mascot for the Mexican team. He was following his caretaker around like he's got somewhere to be, right? Following around like he's the man, kind of thing. Reportedly, he stole the show from the actual players. Yeah, go Merlin. Yeah, so he was apparently the real centerpiece when it came to Team Mexico. Who knew? Who knew? This has been Moose News.
And now it's time for Moose News!
Seems legit.
All right, let's get back to the other stuff. Just thought I'd throw in that little palate cleanser for shits and giggles, and because, well, we're all fucking ADHD here, so it makes sense. All right. So the love the humor breaks. Me too. Me too. All right. So the honest caveats when it comes to asking the question of how does music get treated by ADHD brains? This is why it isn't settled science yet. Okay. As you can tell, as you heard, some of the papers had contradicting views, right? Even in the paper themselves. So, across all 20 of the studies that the big systematic review spanning over 40 years, there is exactly one study in there that was involving adults and not just the kids, right? There are 0 adult studies in the actual music therapy as treatment category, which, when I just asked you, have any of you been through music treatment, like actual music therapy? I don't think any of you said yes, right? So that's not a lot of people even know that's a thing. I only learned it was a thing recently, which I think is amazing, honestly, but I don't know how well it would actually work for me. I do my own music therapy on myself at home, not actual music therapy. That kind of sounded dirty. Whatever. Take that as you will. So, everything in the last section that I just talked about, it was all done on children and teenagers. So, almost none of today's data is technically about us as adults. Prescribed no, self-done yes. There you go. 6 of these 20 studies had fewer than 20 people in them, which is why this, like I said, is a theory paper, right? But these are the only ones that we can find. So small groups means more noise and a much higher chance the results don't hold up if somebody's going to try and repeat it, right? If they try and repeat it in a grander scale than just dealing with 6 people, right? Because everything being true, again, we're all completely unique in that regard. We all sit somewhere different on the ADHD spectrum. So how is music going to affect me specifically versus how it's going to affect Dan or Dave or Hugh or whomever, right? Even if it does calm things down for us, I'm sure individually it will be on different levels, right? It only helped me focus a little bit versus it helped Dan focus a lot, right? That kind of thing. Medication use wasn't consistently tracked or controlled across these studies. Okay, so a lot of the time we genuinely can't separate the music did this versus my Adderall did this, right? So, versus like both together did this. So again, this is why a lot of this is not actually settled science yet. Overlapping conditions were very common in a lot of these papers. Mostly not separated out cleanly. Depression, ODD, anxiety, they all showed up in the mix with these samples. There was no clean way to isolate which one of them, what affected what where in that regard. One thing that kind of pisses me off is not one single study in this whole fucking pile tracked any negative effects, right? Like Jay was saying earlier about how that adult contemporary, I guess, the soft rock kind of stuff, how that agitates him, right? Like there are certain types of music for me I find that just, they fucking grate on my nerves. They agitate me. If I am not in the right headspace for it, don't make me listen to country, right? If I try and I have to be in the right space for that, being somebody who worked in a country bar for like 5 years too. But yeah, there are other types of music that if I hear them, it's just like, my nervous system wants to ignite burn the whole fucking thing down, essentially. So, yeah. But again, there was not one study that, holy shit. Thank you, Cognitive Decline. I appreciate you not so much today. Anyway, there was nothing there that tracked the negative side effects. And I mean, if you think about it, and I think Jamie said it, there have been a couple of other people that said it, how music can genuinely bring up hard emotions or unwanted memories for people, right? A specific song that you and your ex had, and then you broke up, and anytime you hear it, it hits you in the feels, kind of thing. That's a problem for me as somebody who writes music with that intent, right? I've had songs in the last couple of days when I was reviewing the album hit me fucking hard. And, as the person who wrote it. So, yeah. But none of these things were studied, and to me, that's bothersome. I feel like that's something that needs a little bit of attention paid to it. They didn't even bother to ask the question, right? So that's a real blind spot when it comes to this kind of research, right? It's not just a minor footnote. It's this kind of thing. I think should be looked at, but to be clear, I'm not the one finding the cracks, right? I'm not the one who. This isn't necessarily me pulling apart the narrative review, right? The authors of this paper, the systemic overview review, they're the ones that say all of this shit directly, right? Except for my opinion there on the negative effects. But that's what the actual honest science looks like at this point. Kind of like, you're medicated, man. God damn it. So, speaking of MS, that's a deeper conversation that I already had on Wednesday. Anyway, that's where the science is at. I just did, thank you. Everybody else, have a drink.
Eat something yummy, motherfucker!
How do you guys feel about... How are you feeling right now? What are your thoughts on all of this? How the study found that it affected different people, mostly kids. How you are feeling how music affects you versus how it's affecting others that are here. Before we move on, I'm sure you've noticed that I'm getting a little frustrated with myself there. Not good. I need help there, stupid US. I mean, okay. I see what you did there, though. Yeah, I'm sure you noticed I'm getting a little frustrated with my inability to speak, and the fact that every now and again the hamster stops moving, and you could like smell the smoke from the ears. That's a part of the MS that I'm dealing with right now, and it's only getting worse, and it's incredibly frustrating, and I fucking hate it. And so thanks for being patient with me while I do that, while I sit here and stutter and blah, blah, blah. Inconclusive with the results, definitely skewered. Tell me why you say skewered. Hungry mostly of the music, I mean. From the bits I saw, I wasn't most surprised because of profession. Yeah. Well, yeah, because you would see this pretty much firsthand, right? A lot of the different, sides of it, basically. So yeah, anybody who is in, the teaching profession. That's Rosie Music Effects says differently, not as a broad stroke. We're all individuals, and we all have our own life interpretation to get attached to the music. And it depends on the music too, and what it means to you, right? If there is a song out there that really means something to you, like the one example I just mentioned there, right? You have a specific song with an ex-partner, right? And then you break up, and you have a hell of a time being able to listen to that song again, right? I don't ever want to hear the song again. Just makes me think of them. Fuck that. Or if you have songs that like motivate the shit out of you, right? They pump you right up. You know, songs that do that for you won't necessarily be the same ones that do that for me. So you're right. It totally affects us individually on a different level. So yeah, I'm glad you're paying attention. Because that's who we are. Thinking to try and slow down a little as you read, give your brain a second to process what you're actually reading. In other words, you think you're reading, because I think that's what's screwing you up. It could be. Used to the old cognition, the old cognition speed. Trying to fill and maintain that. You can't do that anymore. Give yourself time and grace to get rid of it. Fair enough. Is this another ass kicking like you were trying to give me last night? Yeah, I'm calling you on that. Because they went off small tests targeted towards boys. They didn't factor in things like meds and other things like caffeine. Because they also did not, that I saw anywhere in there, mention race. Because that, you know, with all of us being human and whatnot, there are other factors that come into play when you're talking about adding different races into it, right? So it's not all just little white boys, right? If you introduce parts of the Mexican population, if you know, because they're doing these in the States mostly. If you bring in, people, African Americans, if you bring in, you know, other Asians, kind of thing, right? So these are things that I could not find any information on. So for the most part, I'm kind of assuming that it is just little white boys that they did it on, because, I mean, why the fuck not? That's all they've been doing for the last 100 years. Night before last. I think you're right there. I have a tune from a certain artist that reminds me of a dear friend. There you go. Music, I've seen it work. But yes, you're right, Jamie. You're absolutely right. Yeah, socioeconomic status makes a difference. Exactly. I have no idea what their socioeconomic status was, right? Are these little rich white kids? Are they middle class? Are they poor? Are they living in the slums, right? Do they live under a bridge? You know, do they live in a mansion? That kind of thing. These things are also not taken into consideration. As well as not just other races, other fucking genders. Like, for real. But again, as mentioned, some of these studies came from as far back as... I just wanted to be a real squirrel.
Nadia underscore 269 wants to hear all about your latest song Obsession, either one you heard or one you are producing.
That was fucking rude. That was rude. That one's going to be put on pause until after. Play match to find a living situation. Yeah. Right, but again, these things are not taken into account. Right? So, there is that. Or the downsides with the bottom-up thinking style. Sadly. What the fuck? Just... My wife might be home. Back in the 90s. There you go. Alright, so what are the practical takeaways that I have for you? What can we actually do with this information here? Again, bearing in mind this is not actual hard science systemic review. This one is more of a theory paper, right? And remember, it's coming from me, so it's not medical advice. It's just what today's evidence can honestly support. I'm not a doctor. I'm a semi-professional? Question mark. I'm just a double certified coach. That's all I am. I'm not a doctor or a therapist, so take everything that I say always, all the time, with a grain of salt. Because I could be wrong too. I could have found something... I could have interpreted something completely wrong out of one of those. So, if I'm wrong, please bring me the receipts. I love being wrong in that regard. If you already lean on music to focus, which obviously I do, if you lean on it to focus or calm down or to regulate, then all of this stuff, all of this research that we were just talking about gives you a real, like, early stage explanation for why that might genuinely be working, right? Not just a comforting story that you've been telling yourself. There's actually studies out there that show that, yeah, that's more or less the case. I think one of the... Where are we here? Right, okay, so I think I found one of the single most useful nuggets out of all of this, and it could be for myself, but maybe it's for you as well, is the match the music to the task idea, right? And how many of you do that? How many of you find that you match certain types of music to certain tasks, right? Calmer music for genuinely demanding thinking work, or like more stimulating stuff for repetitive tasks, that kind of thing, because silence is not necessarily your enemy, but it's not your friend either, kind of thing. The Bus! Still not sure why Room 309 is still the best song. Just start the playlist, take a shower, but it is. Could it, maybe, is it because it makes you feel a certain way with a certain swing and a certain swagger, and it allows for drop-in clothes a little easier? Music makes me want to dance for cleaning tasks. Yes. When I am doing any kind of like kitchen cleaning, I still generally default to electro swing for that. Honestly, really haven't looked at things that way before. Something to think about. But yeah, telling us that it's boys doesn't tell us much. Yeah, saying white boys doesn't tell us a whole lot more. White boys out of LA, white boys out of Atlanta, white boys out of Texas, white boys out of Sweden, right? White boys, Asian boys out of South Korea, right? Because one of the studies was in South Korea. All those will have different upbringings, which translates to a very different set of coping skills. Yep. Never mind if they're poor, middle class, or rich. Also, how much parental involvement do they have in their lives? Yep. Exactly. So, and that's genuinely why all of this here together is not a scientific, locked-in information, right? That's why it's more of a theory thing. But because, again, for the longest time, yeah, very one-sided. Yeah, definitely. Everything was tested on little white boys, right? So that's why I feel pretty confident in saying that that's probably who they were referring to. Right, because you've got a lot of cultures too that look at how they deal with mental health. Oh, it's not a problem. Just just get up and try harder. Right, that's their cultural view of any kind of mental health issues. So these are also things that we're not taking into consideration. Okay, but no, I gave you some of my examples for the match the music to the task idea, right? So that's why I found that one. I found that other people doing it kind of gives me that little boost of acknowledgement of like, hey, maybe I'm onto something here, right? Because again, for like if I'm sitting and I'm writing a book, it generally some kind of decent, not not too energetic, but like decent kind of like background music, like Pandora Journey is an example. Or nowadays more frequently, I don't have a specific channel that I go to for it, but shit, I even do my own. But just like, background cyberpunk kind of stuff. That's me. Was that two things that I said? Single was useful nugget. Okay, right. God, I hate it when it takes shitty notes. Anyway, so this is not a replacement for medication or therapy, obviously. Especially if it's already working for you. Nothing today suggests trading one thing for another, obviously. If anything, the actual therapy studies use music alongside the standard care, not instead of it. Right? So, And for those of us that are self-medicating with music, awesome. So if you deliberately build music into your focus routine, just like me, and it does nothing for you, well, bear in mind, that's not a personal failure on your part, right? Different folks, different strokes, you know how it is. But the research itself, it showed real individual variation, and they could do that more easily because the studies were so much smaller, right? Like groups of 20 kids, 22 kids, that kind of thing. So some people, barely any, whatever. Both the outcomes are normal, right? Don't feel bad about it. Yeah, another tool in the toolbox. Exactly. Sometimes my favorite Christian radio station. It depends on my mood. It doesn't always work. Yeah, that's fair. Came back to you if you self-medicate. Came back to if you self-medicate. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, that sentence, like, it mangled itself in my head. Something with a nice happy beat doing short. What do we got here? All right. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a self-care break again, and then I will cash in Nadia's card. You fucking brat. So yeah, let's do that. Time for a self-care break. Go grab yourself snacks and water. Refill what you need to refill. We'll be back in just a moment, and I will confess my sins.